Hello, I'm Tony Guida. This is my New York. There's a new show in town, open today. It's a long walk from Broadway, but the tickets are free. Like the best works of art, it is meant to challenge you. The show is called Portraits of Immigrants, 16 portraits of men and women who came to this country, some illegally, and the stories that brought them here. Betsy Ashton is the portrait artist, and she will tell us why attention must be paid to these people now more than ever. Next. Betsy Ashton, delightful to have you here.
It's a treat to be here, Tony. Great to see you again.
And you too. We were colleagues 100 years ago at a channel.
WCBS TV and CBS News, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, while ago.
And we need to make an addition, not a correction.
Okay.
You are also the writer of Portraits.
I'm the artist, I'm the writer, I'm the producer. This is my show.
Okay. Why this show, Betsy?
I got ticked off, I think you could say, because there was this election, the presidential election going on. You remember that?
It was in all the papers.
Yeah, right. And I'll tell you, honestly, I was sitting in church.
The most recent one.
Yes.
Presidential election.
The most recent presidential election. I was sitting in church. You know, people in New York City, actually some do go to church. And I know everybody out there thinks, oh, we're all heathens, but it's not totally true. At any rate, I was there listening to Love Thy Neighbor as Thyself, the Good Samaritan story, be merciful when somebody is down, help them out, don't kick sand in their face or don't ignore them. And then I go out and I hear this noise from the election, and it's really horrible. It was particularly the stuff about immigrants that got to me. Denigrating immigrants, calling them rapists and murderers. And I'm sorry, you know, this city, New York, I live among, you live among, more foreign-born people than in any other city on the planet. And I actually live in Long Island City, which is the borough that has more immigrants than anywhere else. So in the course of any day, I see hundreds of immigrants. If I get on the subway, you know, probably 80% of the people there.
And none of them is murdering and raping?
No, nothing like that.
I wonder where they are, all those murderers and rapists.
Well, and the problem is I also read too. I read the New York Times and I read the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal and Atlantic, a whole bunch of places, and the reporters who have been there, and they will tell you that these people coming up on the caravans are the good people running away from bad people. Yeah. They're the people trying to save their kids from drug dealers down in Central America and all this. Anyway, I just got so angry about hearing this, knowing it was not true. You know, to me, it's like saying, oh, a plane crashed today, so therefore we're going to ground all the planes. Because, well, plane crashes get a lot of news. They're terrible. You know, I'm not saying that one bad immigrant didn't get in, but the fact of the matter is, it's not the whole story. You know, okay, as I said, a plane crash gets all the news. You know, you covered it, the bodies, long time digging them out of wherever, and it's horrible. But why don't we ground all the planes? We don't, Tony, because we know 8 million people landed safely that day and the day before and the day before and the day before that, and the world is filled with retired pilots and flight attendants. And the fact of the matter is, that's the immigration story. The plane that crashed, that is being blown up by the current person in the office, high office, that's the one story, but all the 8 million, that's the story of immigration.
I think, I will say, and I suppose it's a brief editorial, but the toxic, xenophobic rantings of this ignoramus in the White House on the subject of immigration and so much else angers many people. And I'm delighted, I think, to hear that it inspired you. You're an artist.
I'm an artist
and
and
you've done portraits
journalist,
and journalist,
yeah.
and you've been a portrait artist who gets paid a decent fee for doing portraits, and so you decided I'm going to do portraits of immigrants.
I'm doing portraits of immigrants. I'm not getting paid for this one. took a big hit financially, I must say, but I just felt that I was given a group of an unusual collection of talents, and I just felt like it was kind of like being nudged in that pew, saying, "What are you doing? Do something."
How
do
did
something
you
useful."
act on this? How did you meet these people?
Well, the first thing I did was I decided I'll start just with the people I know. People around me.
Why not?
Talk to the immigrants. Find out, why did you come here? What was it like getting here? What was settling in like? And what have you done since? And what do you think about the whole situation today? So I started with a guy. His name is Eddie, Adilson Rigo. He's the guy who, I have a 5-block commute between my loft in Long Island City, which is in one old factory building, and my studio, which is in another one, from the old Eagle Electric factory to the Helena Rubinstein factory.
Oh, great.
Okay. Anyway, a 5-block commute, and in the middle of it was this espresso bar. And so I would go in and get my coffee or my cappuccino every morning, and Eddie was the guy who would make it. Cheerful, wonderful guy. You'll like this. He's of Italian ancestry. Okay. So I said, "Eddie, what made you come here? What was your story?" And he said, "Well, I'll tell you." He said, "My parents emigrated, left war-torn Italy for Brazil, generation ago. And when they did what did they do? Well, they opened a couple of pizza parlors in Sao Paulo, right? So they were using Eddie's recipes. I love to cook. They were using my recipes." When he said, "But after the 8th bloody robbery, they couldn't take it anymore. They closed up the stores and they retired into the safe countryside. But I was a young man, and I needed to work, and I liked the big city. But it wasn't safe to stay there because you'd pull up in your car at night and traffic stop. They'd come out with guns." He said it just wasn't safe. So he went on the internet and he said, "Anybody need a pizza man?" And somebody in suburban New York needed a pizza man, and that's what brought him here. And of course, he got a work visa from them. And then later, 5 years later, he works for a coffee importer. That was exciting because it got him into New York City. And he loves New York. You walk down the street and he'll tell about smelling the basil and all of the different wonderful smells, Japanese, Chinese, Indian, all of the spices. And New York is so exciting also when people get together and work together and do things. And he'll very quickly say, "We need to do more of that. We need to keep it that way." But he's just a delightful person. And then I started doing some others.
How do you work when Eddie agrees to sit for you or some of these others? How do you work?
Well, first of all, this is not the time of John Singer Sargent, when you have people of leisure who can sit there for the 17th sitting, and as she walks out the door, she hears them scraping the painting off, again. And they have letters to that, to one of the paintings in the Metropolitan Museum, by the way. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No. These are working people. So I have to use a camera, but I also sketch. Like I'd say, "Okay, I need 2 hours of your time." But first I've talked to them on the phone or in person, in his case over the espresso bar, where I've talked to them on the phone and I've been taking notes, and then I'll sit down and I will tape record. I now use my iPhone for everything. Tape record on the iPhone while I'm sketching. Because it's always better having 2 eyes than just the one eye of the camera. And that's really just a study. And then I will do a massive photo shoot. And I'll take 100 pictures. And then I go back and go through them, and I pull out what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, the gestures and the expressions that to me bring out that personality.
I want to pursue that a little bit more, but it just occurs to me, it's like an alarm going off in my head. I don't think I've said where this show is. It's at the Riverside Church on 100, what is it?
It's Riverside Drive. It's actually only a couple blocks off Broadway up there.
Yeah.
It's right up by Columbia. It's Riverside Drive and 120th Street.
Okay. The Riverside Church, Betsy Ashton show, Portrait of Immigrants.
For 6 weeks.
For 6 weeks?
Yeah, open 9 to 6 every day.
Today. And you need to see these portraits, not just because of the work Betsy does, but the stories that she writes that goes with them. So let's get to some more of the stories. Tell me about Lydia.
Lydia is the woman who owns the doggy daycare and grooming center where my dog goes. That's how I knew her. So I said, "Lydia, where are you from?" She's from Ukraine. And how did you get here? What was that all about? Well, it was her father. And let me tell you a story. This was back when the communist regime was still very much in power. And her father was an economist, and he wrote something that they didn't like. So they gave him a choice. They said, you can either spend the rest of your life in an insane asylum or you can leave the country. But there was a hitch to that. As bad as that was, Ukrainians were not allowed to leave the country. The only people that they would allow to leave were Jewish people. So he had to divorce his wife, her mother, leaving his wife and his 2 little children, had to divorce his wife, by the way, selling all of her jewelry to do it, as so that he could then have a dowry to pay to a Jewish family to marry their daughter to get out of the country. That was how that all happened. And he came over here by himself. She wasn't brought over until much later when he got a visa for her. And there's a lot more to that story, but can you imagine tearing a family apart like that? It gets to the fact that in all of these people's lives, there was some tragedy, some difficulty that brought them here. People don't leave their home and their country if they've got a wonderful city apartment, a house in the country, and the job is going great. It's because they've been forced out by something. Even, I'm a descendant of Quakers, some of whom I'm told came over from with William Penn, my father said, and they were not given a king's grant.
No.
They were pushed out. They were the wrong religion. They weren't wanted.
Well, who was welcomed? The Italians weren't welcomed in the teens and 20s, the Irish before them. But these are the people who built this country. The Poles and the Jews and everybody else.
The human capital. Now you're getting to the story that after I have interviewed all of these different people from different countries and cultures, I'm finding that it is that struggle and that sacrifice, and they're all different, but there is a struggle, there is sacrifice, there is adaptation, there is risk-taking, there is entrepreneurship. And when these immigrants and refugees come here, they have that kind of oomph, that push, the grits and the gut. This is what we celebrated from past generations. Yes, built America. This is what made America great. Maybe we should be welcoming instead of giving them a hard time.
Another group that our president loves to relish is demonizing is Muslims.
Oh, yeah.
And you, one of your portraits is of a Muslim war refugee named Abdul Sabur.
Abdul Sabur, he's from Afghanistan. And he's only been here for 4 years. And he is a case, he said, Betsy, I grew up not with the sound of music, but with the sound of bombs and guns, and everything that was beautiful was getting blown up, and the government was terribly corrupt. Everybody was, the Taliban was in charge. He said, my soccer games, we would go to the stadium, and at halftime, this truck would come in, and they'd put people out and hang them from the goalposts and put the others down and shoot them in the back of the heads. That was my childhood. And he said, it was so horrible, but when the Americans came in, they were brought in by the Northern Alliance, by one of the groups that was fighting. But when the Americans came in, it was the first time we ever heard music in the streets. It was we were so excited and so happy to have somebody fighting off the Taliban. And so his older brothers immediately went and were translators. The boys all learned English in school. And then he went and became a translator. And then even more than that, he became somebody to help teach people in the provinces, locals, how to resolve issues, to make good government. The Americans were teaching him how to do it. He was the one that could teach the locals because they wouldn't listen to a foreigner. And everything was great until some of these other people teaching would start to disappear. And all of a sudden they realized they'd been, because the Taliban was still there in the shadows. They had gone back. And so he became a target. His family became a target for helping these foreign invaders now, the Americans. Yeah. And so his 2 brothers were the first to get refugee status. It took him 5 years to get out. He is here. He's living in Syracuse. He's working for an interfaith group that helps settle other immigrants in the area and helps them find jobs, helps them to become productive citizens. And at the same time, he's getting a master's degree in public administration from the Maxwell School at Syracuse, because he says, I know what bad government is. I want to help people. I want to do it the right way. I want to know how to build things properly. I mean, a wonderful person. Yes, he's Muslim, but he doesn't hate us. in it at all. I mean, not at all.
I think he probably loves us.
I think he does.
Tell me about, I want the audience to see more of your portraits. Tell me about Maria.
Maria Salome, yes. Well, the other crisis is at the
Guatemala.
border. Well, Maria's from Guatemala. I had to find somebody who came here crossing the Rio Grande at night. I had to find somebody. And of course, it's not so easy to find somebody like that. So actually,
Imagine that it is.
I was in the espresso bar and I said to a friend of mine, do you know anybody who knows anybody? I've got to find somebody. He says, yeah. And I said, oh, really? Can you introduce me to whoever it is that knows this person? He says, I don't have to do that. He says, I can take you to meet her. I said, what, really? And he says, yeah, come home with me. And it is the housekeeper of a friend of mine. And so she only speaks Spanish, but he translated. And so here's the story. Why would she leave her country? Well, because her husband abandoned her with their 5 children, ages 3 to 16. She immediately went out to get a job. The only thing she was qualified for, I mean, women don't have a lot of opportunities there, was to be a laundress. She was doing other people's laundry. And she said, Betsy, it wasn't even enough to feed them. My children were malnourished. She had to do something, and she had to do it quickly. So discussing with family members, what are her options? She could become a prostitute and earn enough money, or she could leave the country, come to the United States, and send money back home. And she said, indecent work, never, 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 never. She's a good religious woman, good, she's not going to do that. But she knew it was a terrible thing. She had to hire a coyote and make the journey illegally. There's no time to file paperwork and get money and wait months and months and months to get a proper visa. When your children are starving, what do? So she made the trek and crossed the Rio Grande at night. Then they walked for 2 days and 2 nights through desert until at 2 o'clock in the morning they came to a road and she got into a bus. And her group, there were about 40 people at the time, her group made it to New York. She will not talk about the details, just to say bad, bad. But other people I've talked to say, yeah, it's true. A woman traveling alone, she expects to get raped. They pack their contraceptivos knowing this because it's a totally lawless situation.
Well, the story you're telling, Maria's story, of course, suggests the question about how many of these people are here illegally, and did some not want to sit for you because of fear that they'd be discovered or just didn't want to be publicized?
Well, there were 2 that I tried because they clean a building. And that didn't know, they were terrified. They were 2 Mexican women. But I want to tell you what happened to Maria because it's so good. Sure. If you've got a minute. So she got here, she became the beloved housekeeper. She got in with a Guatemalan group that were doing construction. And when this townhouse was all done, the owner wanted it cleaned out. She came in, did a marvelous job cleaning it out, and they offered her the job saying, be our housekeeper. So she did that for 4 years. Then she says, I've got to go back. I heard my children are going wild back there. I've got to go back. The oldest daughter was 21 at that time, and she'd sold the dining room furniture to buy clothes. Twin boys, now teenagers, 15 or 16 it was, had fungus all over their feet. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. So she goes back, same way she came. She gets down there, gets them all cleaned up, gets everything fixed up, and of course they run out of money because there's no money coming in. Nobody's supporting them. She says, I've got to go back. I've got to go back. And the little boy, the little boy says, Mommy, take me with you. So this time, he's now 6. She brings him across the border, and she comes back. Well, her employers are thrilled to have her back. They help her find a little apartment. She gets the little boy in public school. She also works for another townhouse across the street, friends. She's making money. She becomes a lay preacher in an evangelical church.
Wow.
She saves money. She hires a lawyer. And 1 week, Tony, after I finished her portrait, 1 week later, she got her green card. What did she do?
That's great.
She buys a plane ticket to Guatemala. She goes back and she hugs the 4 children she has not touched in 20 years.
Wow.
Imagine. Wow. And there are grandchildren that she holds, and spouses. And of course, her parents had died and she wasn't there. I mean, I ask you this. She came in illegally, but is she a criminal?
Oh,
Where?
Yes, she's going to rape and pillage our country.
Where is the criminal intent? You know, I mean, and the people coming up today, they're running away from drug dealers. They want their children to be safe. They want to have a business where somebody doesn't come around and extort money from them. It's the good people we're keeping out. That's the tragedy of it all. Yeah.
Talking to Betsy Ashton, artist and writer of a show that you really ought to look at called Portraits of Immigrants. You've been seeing some of the portraits. The show is on now and for the next, 6 weeks?
It's on.
At the Riverside Church on Riverside Drive up at 120th Street. Get up there. It's just walk in and take a look. And I was just talking about, some of the people not wanting to sit for you for obvious reasons. And you made one portrait to represent that. And it's a haunting portrait.
I had to do, what really happened was there was somebody, he's from Ghana. He's a wonderful person that I know. And he's a doorman concierge in a building that a friend lives in. And he's beloved by everybody. And he came here totally legally he won the visa lottery, came here not too long ago. And now he's married and his wife has a green card and they just had a baby and he got a passport for the baby because he took the exam. I can remember him being so proud when he was studying for the citizenship exam and he passed it and he swore, the oath of allegiance. And so I said, oh, you've got to be one of my people. You've got to sit for, oh, sure. It was going on for a long time. Finally, I said, okay, I'm ready. It's time. Let me do you. I don't know, Betsy. What? What happened? What do you mean you don't know? I don't think I want to stand out. Why not? You're perfectly legal. Everything you've ever done is right. I said, nobody can harm you or deport you, or why don't you want to do this? I said, you're not doing anything on the side that I don't know about, are you? You're not doing drugs. And he cracked up because he's a totally legitimate kind of a guy. And he said, no. He said, but I have a lot of friends. Some have green cards. My best friend from Guinea, his lawyer is saying, don't go home to visit family in Africa because they might not let you in. They're looking for any excuse to keep out people like us. And he said, and we're all afraid. He says, I go to church meetings. I go to, citizen group meetings. Everybody's afraid. I said, I said, who's everybody? And he said, well, people with black or brown skin. And I thought, how sad. How sad, because this man is a new citizen. He's an American citizen. He pays his taxes. He works well. Everyone loves him at his job. Words matter. That's what's happening. This bad language, this denigration matters. And we've now seen where there's somebody being arrested in the Coast Guard who's piling up guns and stuff because of this. There are people who are a little bit off who will go out and attack somebody.
Yeah, well, I don't think our president has learned the fact that what he says and what he tweets matters, because it's clear that he's on some other planet in regard to what he says and what he puts out there. But this particular portrait, is that a sort of a representation of him, or is it sort of a metaphor for
Well, it's both. It's
stories
both.
that you can't tell?
It's both. I said, look, I won't make it totally recognizable, and I'll never use your name. And I said, but just for a second, just show me how you feel. And he took a pose, like this with his eyes downcast, because he's both sad and he's angry and, upset about it and fearful of the thing. And I just snapped a picture. I said, look, I'm going to paint this. I'll show it to you. And I said, but I'm going to block out, not do the full face, and I'm going to block it out. And I said, but this is going to be how you feel. So I call this painting Fear. It's just, or Finally. And his body language, his expression in his eyes tell how he feels. He's got a normally sunny disposition, so the yellow that surrounds him, the gray is coming down, which is the mood. And then block the face, I went like this and this and this. And then I stepped back.
I thought of that as metaphor for like the barriers, the prisons that these people are in.
Yes, but if you look at it closely, I stepped back and I said, oh my God, it's a swastika. It's not just a fence. And then I thought, do I want to go down there and finish it off so it looks more just like a chain link fence? And then I thought, no, because that is a universal symbol for fear. And what's more, it's the kind of fear that we're talking about.
Yeah. There are 16 portraits in all, besides the one Betsy's talked about. We have Perez Luxama from Haiti, Laura Garcia from Mexico, John Lam, Hong Kong, Diego Salazar, Colombia. Do you want to mention one of these people, single out?
I would just like to point out, you know, we're hearing out of the big mouth that they're all taking jobs away from us. Well, Diego Salazar came here with $2 in his pocket on a plane ticket that his mother bought him from Colombia, which he paid back $15 chunks every month for many, many months, became an apprentice in a picture frame factory, and eventually had a business. He was employing 40 or 50 people. Employing.
Yes.
John Lamb,
yeah.
He never even finished high school. And because he got here and realized he'd have to go out and help his parents support the rest of the family, he wound up going into the garment industry as his first job. He's now a developer. He's just got a real head for business. He employs, he's built 30 hotels. He has a management company that manages about 11 of them, I think it is. He employs about 8,000 people.
We have to leave it there, and I'm sorry, Betsy, but you'll see the stories and read the rest of the stories that Betsy's bringing you in her show, Portrait of Immigrants. It's at the Riverside Church, and I'm delighted you were here to talk about it.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted you gave me the chance to tell more people.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.